Okay, let's jump into it. There's this book, The China Study, that really shook things up in nutrition circles. You might have seen it translated as life-saving diet, which sounds pretty dramatic.
It definitely made waves.
Yeah.
The central idea pushed really strongly is that animal foods, think milk, cheese, meat, are basically the main drivers of major chronic diseases.
Right, cancer, heart disease, diabetes. And our goal today is to unpack that claim. We want to look at the actual science behind it, apply some critical thinking, and help you understand the difference between, a popular idea and solid scientific proof, especially if you don't have a science background.
Exactly. The claim itself is quite extreme. T. Cullen Campbell, one of the authors, essentially argues for avoiding almost all animal products for optimal health. But to see why this is so debated, you have to look right at the type of study it's based on.
And the name, the China Study, comes from a real research project, right? The China-Cornell-Oxford project from the 80s, a massive effort.
Oh, huge. Yeah, 1983-84, they collected tons of data on diet and death rates across 65 different counties in China. The actual study report came out in 91, was like 900 pages.
Wow. Okay, but then the popular book draws these really big conclusions from it.
Yeah.
What's the critical issue there?
Well, here's the key thing for you, the listener, to grasp. The entire project, and therefore the book's foundation, is based purely on observational data.
Meaning they just looked at what people ate and what diseases they got.
Precisely. They observed links, they found correlations. For instance, maybe in certain areas, people who consumed more of food X also had higher rates of disease Y.
Okay.
But, and this is the crucial part, correlation doesn't equal causation. Just because two things happen together doesn't mean one caused the other. That observational data alone can't prove milk causes cancer, for example.
Got it. So correlation, not causation.
Right.
And I heard the original data wasn't fully peer-reviewed either. It sounds like a red flag in science.
That's another point of criticism, yes. Peer review is fundamental for scientific validity. So if that step is weak or missing, you have to question the conclusions drawn, especially such strong ones.
So why did the book get so popular then, if the science had these, limitations? Was it just really well marketed?
It seems like a mix of things. Passion definitely played a role. Critics, like those at McGill University's Office for Science and Society, have suggested the conclusions sometimes feel like they came from a preconceived notion.
Like starting with the idea that veganism is the only way, and then finding data points to support it.
That's the argument some critics make, yeah. That proponents of very restrictive diets, whether it's zero carb or zero animal product, can sometimes, let's say, interpret data in a way that strongly favors their existing beliefs.
And you can see that maybe in specific claims, like the book's stance against any dietary cholesterol,
Right.
since that's only in animal foods.
Exactly. That's a good example because mainstream advice has shifted. The latest U.S. dietary guidelines actually remove the upper limit on dietary cholesterol intake. The science evolved.
Right. So the book's advice there is kind of stuck in the past, or maybe it was pushing an agenda from the start.
It raises the big question. If the China study's conclusions are seen as potentially biased or based only on correlation, what does the broader scientific consensus actually recommend?
Okay, so let's pivot to that. What's the more balanced, evidence-based view? You mentioned Harvard Health's guidelines.
Yeah, their 5 principles of a healthy diet from 2024 are a good example of current consensus. It's much less about extreme elimination and more about balance and quality.
So what are those principles, briefly?
First, eat lots of plants. Vegetables, fruits, whole grains. Makes sense, loads nutrients and fiber. Harvard suggests filling half your plate with produce.
Okay, plants first. What's next?
Second, get adequate protein. They highlight plant-based proteins like beans and nuts and also seafood. The advice isn't no meat, but rather limit red and especially processed meats.
So a shift in emphasis, not total removal.
Exactly. And the next principles focus on quality. Principle 3, choose minimally processed foods. This shifts focus away from, say, blaming milk itself and more towards avoiding things like sugary drinks, refined snacks, ultra-processed stuff.
Which often contain unhealthy fats, sugars, sodium.
Precisely, which leads to principle 4. Limit saturated fat and added sugar generally below 10% of daily calories each and keep sodium down under 2,300 milligrams a day.
Makes sense. Common sense advice, really.
And finally, principle 5 is about balance and diversity. Avoid extremes. The consensus is that a healthy diet is largely plant-forward or plant-based, but that doesn't mean you must completely banish all animal products like milk or yogurt or cheese.
So the big picture from current science is flexibility and focusing on whole or minimally processed foods, mostly plants, but not necessarily excluding everything else.
Absolutely. The key takeaway, really, for you listening is understanding the kind of evidence behind a claim. Is it just an observation, a correlation, or is it backed by stronger experimental evidence proving causation?
So when you hear these really dramatic health claims, especially ones demanding you cut out entire food groups completely,
Pause. Ask yourself, is this based on robust experimental science showing cause and effect? Or is it maybe just a correlation, perhaps packaged with a strong belief system? Applying that critical filter is essential.
a great point to end on. Don't just accept the headline. Look at the evidence underneath. Thanks for walking us through that.
My pleasure. It's crucial stuff.